Hey everyone, Karen from Karen Goes Carnivore. Hope you're doing well today. So I thought I would talk a few minutes about why I decided to ultimately go towards carnivore after I had only been keto for 4 weeks. Okay. And I really did start doing keto thinking that that's how I would permanently eat. And the reason I went keto primarily was because of my pre-diabetes. So I wouldn't say diagnosed, but I just had I could actually feel major glucose issues in my body as I would eat sugar like I used to. I was told like a year ago that my sugar glucose level was at risk, and I didn't really take it that seriously. But then I started actually feeling it, and I thought, I would eat some sugar, and then my body was like, yeah, I'm not handling this well, right? And so that's why I originally went on keto, because I thought, well, I just don't have a choice at this point. I'm not, I would never ever allow myself to get diabetes without at least changing what I was doing. But it took me like a year to kind of just admit it that I need to make some changes. And so, yeah, so I was kind of forced into it, not by the doctor, but again, by the way I was feeling. So I did that so then I decided, okay, I'm going to do keto, basically. It's low carb. I'm going to see how I'm feeling. And I was feeling fine. I was feeling, my glucose level was not up and down, up and down, up and down. I never got it tested, so I'm not 100% sure about that. I'm going to wait. I'm not even sure I'm going to get it tested again because I can kind of tell how I'm feeling. So I'll have to decide that in the future. But while the 4 weeks that I was on keto, I was learning about keto. So I was watching a lot of YouTube videos, and, a lot of the videos that started popping up were, how to make keto pizza and how to make your keto desserts and all this kind of stuff, right? Which is fine. I pretty much thought that's what I would be doing. And, that's not a diss on people who are able to be healthy eating those things. It does require quite a bit. For those things, it requires quite a bit of dairy, is what I noticed. I could be wrong about that, but that's what I noticed because, again, I was only eating this way for about 4 weeks. And now I've been carnivore for 5, so low carb for about 2 months. Okay. And while I was learning on YouTube from a whole bunch of different people about keto, I also started getting introduced to carnivore because I hadn't been really introduced to that. I had heard maybe, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago that people were only eating meat, and that made no sense to me. It made no sense to me because I was heavily into plants, heavily. It was and it still is kind of like my favorite. Now, it was my favorite section in the grocery store, the whole vegetables and, the fruit and vegetables, berries mostly. But now it's interesting, even after only 5 weeks, because I was still buying some fruit and vegetables, but very low carb ones, and eating them a little bit on keto. But now my favorite, now I go right to the meat section. I just go right there and see what's on sale. And, grocery shopping is just so easy, I tell you. So, yeah, so I started learning about carnivore, and then I got really curious. One, mostly, okay, so we have my glucose, which I felt like at this point it's under control. And if I can continue eating this way, then I should not ever have a problem. Okay, so I'm not 100% sure that's true yet. Obviously, this is not medical advice. So, I'll have to go probably get it checked. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see about that. But, what was I saying? My brain is still healing. Um, so I remembered. Basically, I've had, and if you're a part of my other community, you know, like there was a period of time where I kept complaining about, I had like this rash that kept breaking out. I still do. It's not acne. I have been used to having acne on my chin most of my life, but this is like something different. And my doctor called it something. I don't even remember what she called it. And she gave me like a topical, and she says it can like move around and like really spread. And it did spread a little bit under my nose right here. Um, and so it's really bizarre because it'll heal up completely. And the next day it'll just be like all over, and then it'll just heal up completely like in a day. It's very odd. So, and I don't want to use that topical anymore. It's been almost a year last November. So it's August now. So it's been 9 months. So I thought, well, I wonder if I should do an elimination. Maybe it's the dairy, maybe it's eggs, you know. I thought, well, maybe I should do an elimination diet. So I never intended for carnivore to be permanent, but I thought, well, if what they're saying is true and meat is the healthiest thing, beef especially, is the healthiest thing that you could eat, then I thought, well, okay, if that's the case, then why don't I give that a try and see if I can get this cleared up and then introduce foods back and then see what might be causing if I get a reaction. So I really kind of intended it to be an elimination. I'd never done anything like that before, but I was convinced after watching so many of the doctors on carnivore on the health benefits of eating beef, bacon, eggs, and butter. Okay, so that's how I initially started. Now I have to tell you, I had a major aversion to meat. Was not used to eating the amount of meat that I had then now started introducing into my system. So there was a period of time that I thought, no, I don't think I could do this. But I kept listening to videos after videos after videos, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this. One, just to share my experience, but if it's helpful for even one person who's starting this and anything that I talk about, if it's helpful for them, then I'd be thrilled with that. So I had been listening. Again, I always list the in the description below the videos. There's a group of people that I was listening to, so you can always check that out in the description below. You probably have run across them too. But I just kept listening. I kept listening and listening and listening, even through like the fat, adapting to the fat and getting used to the meat. I was eating it medium. Now, when I was a kid, I used to love my meat like rare, really rare when I was a kid. And I was used to eating meat then because that's what mom made, you know. It was always like a meat and potatoes on the table, you know. It was probably much cleaner meat at that point in the 1970s, I'm guessing. So I was really used to it as a kid, but not as an adult. And I had heard somebody say that your taste buds change, and eventually they went from medium meat to rare. And I have to say, it is really true. It was true for me. And in fact, tonight I just had a New York steak. It was probably a little less than a pound, maybe. I didn't look at the pound. It was like that big. It had a nice rim of fat on it. I cooked it low and slow so that the fat would get a little bit more crispy, but I cooked it rare. It was delicious. So I would not have been able to do that 5 weeks ago. So it is incredible how quickly, if you stick to it, if you can get yourself through that first couple of weeks, just as your body gets adapted. Now I'm like, wow, that's all I really want to eat, you know? So yeah, I would say beef. Obviously steaks are pretty expensive. It's probably like $20, $20 steak. And my husband can easily eat like a $30 roast every day, which I know a lot of people, I mean, we're retired. He's almost retired. We saved all of our lives and we've been able to retire a little early because we saved super early and invest in blah, 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 blah. So, and we don't have any kids. So that makes a huge difference. And I mean, this is a whole nother part of the story, but I've lived in a condo most of my adult life. So we didn't overextend ever. And like we literally moved into our condo. Well, it's a long story, but we moved into our condo and pretty much paid the mortgage off right away in our 20s. So late 20s. So anyway, right now I can afford to eat what I want to eat and spend a little bit more money on that. And I'm only supporting, regenerative farmers and I can do that. Not everybody can do that. So I would say, I know there are people on the carnivore diet that just eat beef all day, every day. That's what they eat. You can doctor it up with spices if you want to, if spices are not hard for you, or, and get the cheapest beef there is, Again, what Dr. Ken Berry has said, the reason I said it again, because I've mentioned this in another video, that even the cheapest beef is healthier than any vegetable that you could eat. It's crazy. That's mind-blowing to me, if that is actually true. I don't think he's lying. He's looked at the research. He's a medical doctor. He has looked at the research. He eats this way. His kids eat this way, his little tiny kids. I was really blown away when for the first time, I watched a family and all of the kids all eat carnivore. And I was like, dang. I mean, this whole thing has opened up just in 2 months, has opened up a whole new world for me. It's just fascinating. It's fascinating. So, now I haven't given up the eggs. I don't really eat the egg whites anymore. I mentioned in another video that I drink coffee and I put egg yolk in my coffee. And I have a little dairy. I'm really not that interested in dairy. I mean, I used to love dairy cheese. Oh my gosh. I'm really not that interested. It's so interesting. It's fascinating. It's like my body knows what it wants and my brain wants to give it to it now. It's really interesting. But I'm still getting this thing. And so obviously my gut, I mean, it's been 5 weeks. You got to give yourself time. But the only reason I'm not quite eliminating the dairy 100% and eliminating the egg 100% to see if it will clear up, and then introduce later, is because I've gotten the cellular testing done. It's a urine test, and I'm getting I got the results, but I'm getting I'm doing the consult on this coming Wednesday. So I'll let you know. I'll record what I've learned and what the recommendations were. I'll let you know at that time, or maybe a little bit later, who it was, because I just want to feel it out first before I let you know. And so that's why I'm hoping that we'll be able to, figure out what this is, what's the deficiency, and that I'm obviously deficient in some things. In fact, I got the report back. I put it into Mabel, who's my AI. I'm calling her Mabel. And so Mabel came back with, what the report said and the recommendations based on the report, which is amazing. And but I want to see if it compares. I want to see which obviously the professional says. So I'm hoping that it looked like I'm deficient in a number of things that supplements would help with. At least that's what Mabel said. And if that's the case, then if I can start taking these supplements, then my body will have more opportunity to heal. And plus, I'll be able to ask her, should I cut out the eggs right now? Should I cut out the dairy right now? She'll be able to tell me that. That's not something Mabel couldn't tell me. So she'll be able to tell me that. And then I'll be excited to see how this clears up. Because I'm 56, it's like enough already. Enough already. I'm not, I don't have a period anymore. So I'm just like, stop with the breaking out. So there's something going on. So Yeah, so that was really why I decided to switch from keto to carnivore after only 4 weeks on keto, because I had kind of this whole new world had opened up to me, and I thought, oh, I'm going to try this. Plus, I really love the simplicity of carnivore. I really do. It's just so now that I know what it is that I like eating, and I'm like, oh yeah, I could eat a steak at every, like 2 steaks a day, easily. And then that would be my meal. That would be what I eat. So I haven't quite done that. I don't do that consistently. Last night I made a burger. Well, I had some hamburger. Sometimes it just depends on what I've defrosted or what I've had in the freezer, and I'm like, well, we got to eat this. I don't want to waste it, just because I want to eat steaks. So like right now I have some chicken thighs that are thawed and they're skinless. So I was like, okay, I got to find something to do with these. I'm not that excited to eat them, but I don't want to waste them too. So I think I'm actually going to cook them, shred it up, and then put it back in the freezer, and have it available if I want to make a casserole or something, something a little different. But I made this hamburger, so I had some hamburger in the fridge defrosting. I got it from a local farmer who's also was doing my CSA. I had her CSA, so community shared agriculture. Okay, so I was getting vegetables from her, and beautiful vegetables. And I also had a share of meat from her as well. And unfortunately, I had to cancel the CSA. I was like, I'm sorry, I'm going carnivore. But she totally understood, but I kept her shares of meat. So 100% grass-fed, local, grass-finished. So she knows who her butcher is. She knows which meat she's getting back, all that kind of stuff, which I understand can be an issue. But again, if you don't have the finances, don't worry about those kind of things. Worry about your health more. If you eat a piece of meat and it doesn't make you feel good, it causes some kind of inflammation, then you'll know that that particular meat maybe has histamines in it, or maybe it was fed grains that had something in it that then ended up in the meat, and it's not, makes you feel good. So if it doesn't make you feel good, then go on that. You know what I mean? So, but for me, because this is kind of like my donation back to the world at this point, it's like, okay, I don't care how much they cost. Don't tell them that, but I'm going to support the regenerative farmers and as local as possible, because that's kind of my service work right now. So I feel good about that, which is incredible because it's like it's not service work, but you know what I mean? Like giving back to the world, which is amazing because I get something very healthy in return. So it's just kind of how I'm justifying it in my head. And it's also, hopefully the right thing. Sometimes you hear that people tell you it's grass-fed, grass-finished, and it's not. That kind of stuff drives me bonkers because, you have to be able to trust the labels. Well, you can't trust the labels. But I did hear somebody, and I haven't researched this, but I did hear somebody say that if it says grass-fed, grass-finished, that's a very strict label to get on meat. So fingers crossed. Because if it's not, if I'm still eating grain finished and they've manipulated the system, then I might as well be buying I'm just paying, $10 more than everybody else is paying, you know what I mean? Or for the other stuff. So, that kind of stuff you kind of have to work around. But so, yeah, so that's really why I started, why I started on carnivore after I was only keto for 4 weeks. So let me know your thoughts and let me know your experience. If you have things, and I know there's a lot of people in the community right now who are adding, you guys have been on carnivore way more than I have, and I love hearing your comments. Other people are really, especially if new folks start to find this new to carnivore, people start to find these videos, then they're going to love reading your comments below because it's so supportive and so encouraging, so encouraging. And I think we need that. When you're making such a big change, it is such a big change. And I recognize that for myself and I recognize it for others. And to stick with it we need the encouragement of each other to keep moving, right? Because the healing part of it is just amazing. And that's the last part. I'm never gonna stop talking about the healing part of it, because even when I was like researching carnivore and getting carnivore recipes, nobody ever talked about healing that I found. People probably do, but nobody ever talked about healing on keto. Did I say carnivore? On keto. Nobody talked about healing on keto. It was all about the, what kind of foods you can make, all the different variety of food you can make with keto. Everything tasted like eggs, basically. Eggs and cottage cheese, right? After only 4 weeks, I got that. But nobody was talking about healing. So that's why when I started switching to the carnivore, listening to the carnivore, I thought the messaging was really different, really different. And that excited me. It excited me to know finally there's something that I can enjoy, that eventually I would enjoy eating, to make the food noise go away, to make my life simpler, to actually heal my body. That's incredible. I know I was telling you about my beef. I can do that. But I'm like, wait a minute, I got to come back to the beef recipe. So last night I made this is a squirrel. Last night I made a hamburger. It had egg. I whipped up eggs, cream, whipped that up, poured it over the hamburger. It wasn't like a whole bunch. It wasn't like an egg souffle, but it was just enough to kind of cover the beef. And then cheese. So sharp cheddar I put in there, and I don't buy shredded sharp cheddar. You'll have to look into that. It's not great for you. There's something they put in it that if it's already shredded, and I don't buy cheese that has any food dyes in it. This cheese is from Costco. I'm not 100% sure it's great cheese, but I did just buy some cheese at the co-op that's near me. That's raw cheddar, so I'll be using that from now on. But it was like $9 for like 4 ounces, probably, maybe 5 or 6 ounces. I mean, who can do that? Who can do that if they have big families? So if you're looking and you have a family and you want to consider having your children, look at carnivore. There's definitely families on YouTube that you can be following. And it's incredible. It's incredible that they do that. I just think it's beautiful. I think their kids, I know Dr. Ken Berry's kids are doing amazing. And I don't have any proof of this, but like it would be amazing if a child was diagnosed with ADHD, if they would look to this diet first to see if that cleared up. Because it's like, well, is ADHD, this is no judgment. I have no experience or any knowledge about this. I'm just speculating. So is the increase in ADHD, is it an increase? Is it caused by the standard American diet? So is it really a disease or a disorder or whatever, ADHD, attention deficit disorder, right? I think is what it stands for. Or maybe that was ADD, attention deficit. Okay. I haven't kept up on this because I've been away from the college for about 5 years. I used to work in higher ed. But I think the question is how much is the diet the issue, all the diseases. I mean, very few people had autoimmune disease when I was in my teens and early 20s. Very few people around me. Now a ton of people around me do. So it's not like older people around me, it's like younger people around me. So that is definitely increased too. And the question is, it's inflammation. So is it caused by the diet? So anyways, it's all just very interesting to think about, isn't it? Okay, but all we can do is take care of ourselves, really. And I will see you in the next video. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Subscribe if you haven't. That would be awesome. You can see I got little tiny subscribers. Hey, I don't care if there's just one person here. I got almost 60,000 on my other channel, which is awesome. Love it there. It's very different than this. So it might not be your cup of tea on the other side of things, but I appreciate this small group. If it grows, that would be amazing. But if it doesn't, that's okay too. So, all right, you guys, take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.